We've been traveling in our fully converted Sprinter van for 6 months now. We started by exploring the East Coast, and now we're just making our way to the West Coast, and we are so excited. We thought now would be a great time to share with you 6 things we've learned while traveling in our van for 6 months.
Lesson number 1 is to take a shakedown trip and know how to work on your vehicle in case something happens. So we bought this van in Florida, drove it back up to Maine, and then we stripped the inside out, did a whole new electrical system, and never really drove the van for a little over a year. So we decided before we go on this grand adventure that we're on now, we wanted to go from Maine to Tennessee just to do a shakedown trip. And we lived in the van in Chattanooga, Tennessee for 2 to 3 months, which allowed us to make sure our layout was correct, make sure all of the electrical upgrades that we just did, which I literally watched YouTube videos to know how to do it, were gonna work out, and to discover any mechanical problems that the van may have, which we discovered some major ones. So we lived in it in Tennessee, drove back up to Maine, decided to do a couple more other fixes to the van, and then before we left on this year-long adventure that we're on now, we went from southern Maine to northern Maine to kind of do a shakedown trip number 2. And while we were on that trip, we discovered a ton of mechanical problems with the van. We chased that thing so bad, we kept getting put into limp mode, which means we were stuck in second gear. We couldn't go over 25 miles an hour. It was a nightmare. So if we would have left Maine and just gone out west, away from shops, away from people who could help us fix the van, shout out to my dad, it would have just been a nightmare. So we're so thankful that we did almost 2 shakedown trips in the van before we left and headed out to the land of the unknown.
Lesson number 2 is how to be chill when things go wrong, because unfortunately, they will go wrong. We had quite a bit of van issues at the start of this year-long road trip, and it was very frustrating for us just because we had put in so much of our heart and souls into this van and almost all of our money. It took almost 7 years for us to make this dream a reality. So when things do go wrong, it's very scary for us because we've put so much of our lives into this. Not naming names, but someone at the tip of Maine had a little mental breakdown when we first started having van troubles. And from that moment, we started learning how to communicate with each other better when things do go wrong. One of my habits as someone who may or may not know much about engines of vans or any vehicle at all is to ask a ton of questions. And I found that is not helpful in our relationship for me to ask questions that Cody might not know the answers to in that moment. So we've started asking each other, how can I best support you? Whether that's giving each other space in a tiny van like this, or asking the questions, or just talking through next steps. It doesn't matter what it is, but respecting what the other person needs in a very scary time is super, super helpful for us.
Lesson number 3 is that not every place you stay is going to be beautiful and Instagrammable. As I'm saying that, we're in a pretty amazing spot here in the Arizona desert, but we do not stay in spots like this all the time. Thinking back to our East Coast travels, all the way from Maine to Key West, we were either in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, a Walmart parking lot, or a campground. We never really stayed anywhere that was beautiful that we wanted to show off. And going into this trip, I had it in my head that it was constantly going to be free places that are beautiful, and we're going to be taking pictures and we're going to be inspired. That's not always the case. You certainly can get to those places, but oftentimes to get to those places, it's staying in spots that aren't as beautiful. So I guess that was kind of a big mental shift and something that I learned, especially on the East Coast where it's not as RV friendly, is that every spot's not as beautiful. Every spot you're not going to want to post on Instagram, but that is the reality of full-time travel.
Speaking of things not being Instagrammable, the inside of the van right now is yikes. But that's okay. That is just the realities of living in small places. But on to lesson number 4, which is learning how to be okay with the unknown. And what I mean by that is perhaps we don't know where we're going to sleep most nights, or when we're going to get groceries next, or what state we're going to next, which is something we've been trying to figure out right now. Where are we going after this? So it's just learning to be okay with not knowing. I feel like coming from a 9-to-5 job where I worked 5 days a week, it was really hard to reshift my mindset of not having a set schedule and a set plan and knowing that weeks ahead. And I feel like Cody has always been the planner in our relationship. So even if it didn't have to do with my job, we've always had a plan. So not having a plan has been really tricky, especially for me. But I feel like we're just now figuring it out, and it's okay to just not know.
Hi, my name is Cliff, and I would like to share a dog lesson I've learned while living on the road. And that is that every morning when we wake up, I really need to get some exercise in, preferably playing ball. And once I play ball, I am the best boy ever. I ride in the van really well. I listen. I walk off leash. I just need to get all my energies out to be a good boy.
Lesson number 5 would be the ability to slow down and do slow travel. So like we've talked about before, East Coast was such a tight timeline. We pretty much had to go from Maine down to Key West to meet our friends there for the first week of December in about like a month by the time we left after all of our van troubles. So every night was a different Cracker Barrel, different Walmart, different campground. And if we stayed at a place an extra day, it meant that we were losing an extra day and a location in front of us. So when we came out west, we didn't want to have any plans. We didn't want to have any place to be so that we could slow down and enjoy places like we are today. We've been on BLM land. This is state-owned land, and we're able to stay off grid for like 5 or 6 days, and it has been so amazing. Not only do we get to enjoy places, spend more time with each other, especially intentional time, but we also save money. When we're in cities, we're going out to eat, we're buying coffee, we're going shopping, we're getting random matching tattoos, we're going go-karting at any time that I can find a place. So getting off grid, obviously, you don't really have the ability to spend money. So it's been amazing not only to spend more time with each other, but to also save money and extend our travel. And I just wouldn't change that for the world.
I feel like we could go on for forever about things that we continue learning in the van, but our final lesson number 6, is research. Oh my gosh, I had no idea how much research it took to plan this lifestyle. I mean, sure, you could probably stay in one place for as long as you want and not research at all, but that is just not the way we have been traveling and what we've found that we enjoy. We have found that we have to research where we're gonna sleep, so we use a lot of apps like iOverlander, places that are free. And we also research a lot about food. We love food. Cody is the chef in the family and I'm the baker, and so we just love trying new things. And something that makes it a little tricky is we both live off a plant-based diet. We're both vegan, so it's not as easy as just on a hungry night and we don't feel like cooking running over to McDonald's, although their apple pies are really good. But we love finding new restaurants in cities. That's one thing that we do spend a lot of money doing when we're staying at the Cracker Barrel. And so that is a lot of research that we put in place. Cody actually created a map that we are able to tag everything that we want to do as we travel. We will split up things to look up, like things to do, places to sleep, harvest hosts, restaurants, anything like that, and we'll pin it on the map. That way, once we get there, we have a general idea of where we're going, but man, does it take so much research. And on top of it, now that we are posting on YouTube twice a week, that is taking a lot of research too, because we really want to give you guys some really meaningful content and not just throw content out there because we feel like it. So we've been doing a ton of research on how to make sure we are being honest and truthful and just sharing as much as we can with you guys.
So those are our 6 major lessons that we have learned from being on the road for the first 6 months, and I'm sure there are many more coming as we continue this adventure.
We're complete noobs, so.
Let us know if you guys have any lessons that you've learned over the time of your travels, and also, since we're posting on YouTube twice a week now, please let us know what kind of content you guys want to see.
Gosh, please.
We had a huge list of ideas and we are rolling through that list. So let us know what type of content you guys want to see and we'll add it to our to-do list and probably give you a shout out when we do that video. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Peace.